Well, hello everybody. Um, Hopefully everyone's doing well. Trying to go live on LinkedIn, but it hasn't quite worked out. And it didn't want to work. And now I can't quite restart. Error starting. Whatever. It worked once. Maybe it'll work again one other time. Anyway, let me grab the link. Shout out to everybody on the arena. That's one that actually works. Which I appreciate for that. Just give me a sec. I'm just getting the word out. Hopefully everyone's having a great day. I want to start out by shouting out all the dads out there. Sunday is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are out there. Hope you're happy. Hope you have a great celebration this weekend. With your loved ones. So yeah, happy Father's Day to everyone out there who is a dad. Doesn't matter if it's your bio kids, step kids. You're the dad who stepped up, chosen family, all that type of stuff. That's all fantastic, and I appreciate and salute everyone who stepped up to be a father to their family. All right, it's been an interesting week, right? So what I wanted to do today, and let me just make sure I have the correct, because I don't know if I have the correct thing. I do, kind of. Nope, that's not it. The other one. There we go. So one thing I wanted to do before we started talking about Illinois, well, let's talk about Illinois for a little bit then. Let's do that, and then we'll kind of come back to this, because I wanted to do a little bit of a retrospective, a picture painting episode to just kind of talk about what's going on in the state of DeFi. And sorry, my mouse is not on that side, it's on a different side. But here on Beat the Banks, what we do is we talk about what you can do to become your own bank, right? Because if banks are going to sit here and make all these decisions that you do or do not agree with, and they take all of your deposits and make money off of you, and you make nothing, how does that sit with you? Does that sit well with you in this world? Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the news with regards to Illinois, because this is not good. This is not good at all. So, starting January 1st, 2027, in the state of Illinois, businesses who are based in the state of Illinois will now be responsible for withholding a 0.2, not 0.02, 0.2, 20 bips tax on all crypto transactions, regardless if it's profit or loss. calling it the most punitive digital asset tax in the country. Now, what I'll do here is I'll go here and just kind of go down the comment section so you can kind of see how happy are people that this is happening. It's not good. I said DeFi and self-custody fixes this, by the way, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Michael Saylor, big mistake with the Bitcoin B. Hayden Adams, founder of Uniswap. Met him last year in New York. This is like taxing changing your bank password, possibly the dumbest effing thing I've ever seen. Some people are never going to go back to Illinois. Shout out to Ashley Duncan. Who even likes Illinois anyway? Some people. If you've ever been a mean to me and you live in Chicago, just know this was from me personally. That's lovely. So, I'm going to talk about probably the two things that are the most curious about this, right? So, this was signed into law, and how it kind of snuck through, I suppose, because it's part of a larger budget bill, right? So I guess it was going to go anyway. Shout out to the Illinois ambassadors and president of the Stand With Crypto chapter in that state. This is not good news for you guys, because this is going to make it harder specifically for people in your state to want to deal in crypto assets, because a 0.2% tax on anything you do, that's reported, by the way. So centralized authorities. So really how this affects you if you live in the state of Illinois is if you are KYC'd with a centralized exchange. So if it's Kraken, if it's Coinbase, if it's Crypto.com, Nexo, I could keep naming. They're going to be required, doing business in the state of Illinois, to withhold 0.2% on every transaction. Now, some people may not care. Like, I only do $100 in crypto a year anyway. Well, then that's what, $5 roughly. With that said, the problem with this is that the United States, traditionally, is a country that really just kind of looks at precedent. Now, the fact that J.B. Pritzker has done this, will this push other blue states, predominantly blue states, traditionally blue states, to follow suit? My answer is most likely no on this, but I'm very curious to see, moving forward, will there be a boycott of Illinois in some sort, or at the very least, a very large class action lawsuit? Because precedent can come from two ways, right? It's a bit crazy to, in my opinion, to do this. But, much like many other things that people want in their state, whether it be restaurants, whether it be gambling, whether it be medical or recreational marijuana, cigarettes, alcohol, the issue has always been, how do we make money off of things that our citizens want, right? Because that is the business model. You like vaping? There's going to be a tax for that. Pardon me. There's going to be a tax on just about everything at some point. understanding digital assets, understanding digital goods and services will be probably a point of contention for a lot of states as they move forward to figure out, with new technology, how can we find ways to increase revenue for us at a statewide level. Now, what would be interesting is if President Trump were to possibly executive order a refund of all of that money. He won't, because that would be quite the interesting dilemma. With that said, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange is, outside of the New York Stock Exchange, one of the most used exchanges on the planet. If the goal for settlement, for ease of settlement, ease of friction, and just trying to make things work, if the idea is to make it so that everything is tokenized, much like what BlackRock CEO Larry Fink wants to do, a lot of that's going to come, frankly, through Chicago. Perps is something that wants to make it to the limelight. If it's going to make it so that if you use the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and you live in the state of Illinois, or if you use a broker that's based in the state of Illinois, they're going to have to withhold 0.2% on every transaction that you make. This is not a good sign for that, honestly. Considering that they were a supporter and passed this Digital Asset Consumer Protection Act, which I thought was very nice. This is a very sharp turn from that. I don't know where you go with this from here, because this is an unfortunate decision that's snuck through, and there's a lot of business that goes through Chicago. Now, again, this is all based on personal wallets that you have on these centralized services. The problem that anyone is going to have is the on-ramping and the off-ramping part, right? Now, there are ways around this. And again, not financial advice. One second. I just realized I can just literally say because I think I've posted about this on my LinkedIn. Yes, I will just edit that real quick. Yeah, it says pre-live. Sorry, I don't know why I'm trying so badly to get LinkedIn to be... It's really not the easiest thing to get live. You have to do a stream key every single time. I'm sure there's a way to do it if you have premium, but I'm not going to do all that. But oh good, I can edit the post. I'll just use the Twitter link because that's like the best thing to do here. So hopefully that works. And again, it worked the first time, but reuse the same stream key across events, persistent stream key. No need to reconfigure your encoder each time. Set it up once and go live faster. Alright, well, eventually we'll figure out how to do that. Personal profiles cannot use persistent stream key. Oh, I can use the same key for multiple events until I reset it. Oh, I see, but I have to do a different post each time. Well, we'll figure it out. Anyway, sorry to sidetrack on that, but it is a bit unfortunate, and I'm a bit annoyed about it. Pardon me. Okay, so I guess I can go live on CoinMarketCap as well. I should have figured that out. Anyway, we are a country of precedent, and while this is messy, this doesn't go into effect until January 1st. So, hoping that something can be agreed upon up until January 1st, because I'm sure they're seeing the backlash on this, and it can't be good, right? What I was looking up, and I apologize, just some things, of course, that you can do if you are in the state of Illinois and you kind of want to dance around this. Again, none of this is financial advice. One thing that I could recommend you do is to set up like a multi-member LLC, like in Wyoming, Nevada, Texas, and use that as a way to create some type of trading account, which you can do on multiple entities. Probably Kraken, if you're asking me for my money, is probably where I'd go. They seem to be the most friendly to this idea. And Wyoming might be the best state to do this in terms of it's just a couple clicks and, working that way to make it happen. Yeah, there's just nothing good about this, right? Because the biggest part for you as an investor in this space is honestly going to be when you on-ramp and off-ramp. DeFi fixes this, yes, because you have self-custody, but if you need the money and you don't have a crypto card like we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, that might be something you may want to look into as well, is getting a card from like EtherFi or Cypher, MetaMask, Avalanche, Solayer, Moonwell. I mean, there's a whole bunch that are out there. That might be a better use of your money, but if you're purely a trader, TRADER, and you want to be able to on-ramp and off-ramp your money easily, that makes it a little bit more complicated, especially if you would prefer to use a centralized exchange over something like Hyperliquid or something on Solana, or other perp dexes that are out there like Aster, even something like PancakeSwap or some of these others out there, or even just using your wallet for like Phantom, Rabby, MetaMask. They all have perps inside the wallet. They have Hyperliquid perps inside the wallet. That's something that you could potentially do. There are a lot of people who do checkbook IRAs or self-directed IRAs. You could use that as a way to create an entity to trade out of that is tax advantaged in many ways. Not something we're going to cover today because it's outside the scope, but that's certainly something we can talk about with multiple groups that provide such a service. But yeah, this is not a good look. Another thing too that could be something that affects us in some way is that because we're not getting clarity this year. I still don't think we'll be. July 4th was the date, right, to get it onto President Trump's desk. I don't think we are anywhere near that. I think we're very far apart from getting enough signatures in the Senate to get this moving back down to the House and then back up to President Trump's desk. Well, the EU has had their own version of clarity for over 2 years now. This is the MiCA framework. Markets in Crypto and Digital Assets, I believe is what it stands for. July 1st is the licensing deadline, and last year they had well over 2,500 companies that had licenses to do business within the EU. That number is currently sitting less than 300 on the renewals. And, a lot of that could be a lot of businesses have gone out of business. But there are a lot that just were in there and they're like, it didn't really do a whole lot. Well, we'll see exactly how this changes specifically with AI, because the EU is going to be pushing for AI development, much like the US and China have been doing. So they're looking to be that third player in that space with things that are happening. So we'll see exactly how that works out. But yeah, well, I guess we'll just have to see from afar how an actual established multi-governmental framework works, right? With that said, shout out to Bull Theory, by the way. Kevin Warsh had his first speech as Fed chair on Wednesday. A couple of interesting takeaways from here. You can certainly read the screen. He's creating committees to help look for solutions for both the inflation as well as the housing piece and all of that. Now, the interesting part here, all 19 members at the table agreed not to raise rates today. Guys, we're going to get rate hikes. But, interestingly enough, former Chairman Powell is a Fed governor for the next 2 years. So he is one of the 19 members at the table that agreed not to raise rates today. Now, for him to say, that I don't necessarily agree with this statement. Overall, Chairman Powell tried to be fairly neutral on inflation with regards to the position of the Fed due to everything that was happening. Unfortunately, with the bank bailouts and banks just starting to kind of get hit, like with Signature Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, and then the other one that also failed. They had this new BTFP program where banks could borrow liquidity at par, and so the Fed has a whole lot of debt now on their books. But the other part that was interesting too is that the Fed will no longer tell you in advance what it plans to do with interest rates. This is very opposite of Chairman Powell. He's a data-driven guy. You kind of had an idea what he was going to say. He's looking to actually do this, Chairman Warsh, twice a year, which I think is a very stark contrast to what Chairman Powell did. Yeah. So this is going to increase a lot of hawkish and bearish behavior. I mean, the stock market tumbled yesterday off of this news, right? Good news, he's trying to keep inflation at 2%. That's always good. He didn't want to talk about anything having to do with bonds. So, yeah, there's just a lot of not talking about much that I think will kind of be the hallmark of the next, just the entire term of Chairman Warsh as Fed chair. Wow, USA is up 1-0 on Australia. Sorry to hear that, Kitty from On Chain Media, who's in Australia. So shout out to all the Australians that are out there. Okay, so what we'll do now is we will, as part of the picture painting, right? Because what does this all mean, right? What this all means, and I don't have that other tweet here, and I should have had it. My apologies. Do I have it here? No. Let me grab it, because it's important that we talk about it. All right, that's because I quote retweeted it. That's the problem. So I thought I bookmarked it. I did not. I just quote retweeted it. So we've talked a lot about operational security. If you're gonna want to be your own bank, you're gonna want to have good operational security to be a big part of this. I didn't realize I wasn't following them. Let's follow International Cyber Digest. So Novo Nordisk got breached by a hacker. That was probably going to happen, but apparently the having that as your password for critical systems is just bad. So they are starting to leak information because they got AI models. They have customer data. They have recipes for things like Ozempic, and 700,000 files looks like, and they are leaking them because Novo Nordisk did not want to pay a bounty of $25 million. So, what I mentioned about this, because April was terrible for DeFi with regards to exploits, and none of it was really with smart contracts outside of admin key compromises, but more for off-chain infrastructure, things like RPCs, things with worse operational security because of people having passwords like Novo123. This has to stop. Problem is, this happens across all industries, right? This is in the biotech industry. Instructure, who owns Canvas and a couple of things, they paid the shiny hunter's bounty to keep all of that data safe for people in higher ed. We're going to see more of this, guys. Arch Linux is having a huge problem right now. GitHub also having a huge problem. They're just people are just hacking into things left and right. At some point, there's probably going to be a class action lawsuit against Microsoft, who owns the majority of GitHub. Hopefully this means we're going to see some better movement, I guess would be the word, with regards to how people can take operational security seriously. But let's repaint the picture. So this is from December 1st, 2023. And yes, we have been doing this show for a very long time. The original Beat the Banks episode was like in January 2022. So we've been trying to educate and onboard people on this topic for years now. So I'm going to go through some of these. And granted, so we called the structural bull market back in October of 2023, October 31st, I think, right around Halloween. A structural bull market was in place. And of course, we saw Bitcoin rise at that point to like 64K, right? From where we were. The idea that President Trump could have been elected in an era where Gary Gensler's regime, and really it's probably the only major regime change that we've seen under the Trump administration. Yeah, it's just interesting to see some of these thoughts, right? So Arbitrum became our starting point as the blockchain to start off with. If you first get started in this space, Avalanche was where we used to go, but Arbitrum 1 as the premier layer 2 in Ethereum just became a lot easier to use with regards to frankly how Coinbase off-ramped, and that was really the main reason. Where AVAX was easier to do back in the day from Coinbase, from Binance US, from Crypto.com, but Arbitrum 1 kind of stood out because they started to do ETH, USDC, and all of that for pretty much free at that point. So that made it easy to go back and forth that way. It took a lot of innovation and maneuvering to get CEXs to get to that point, because still, even to this day, the easiest way to off-ramp most effectively with the least amount of friction and money is still through a centralized exchange. Which is why this sucks, right? That's why this is a huge problem. Because if we're trying to make this adoption of products much easier, digital asset products through like PayPal, through everything, you're going to have to on-ramp them somehow. And if you're in the state of Illinois, you're getting hosed by this. Adoption's not happening in Illinois, thanks to this starting January 1st. And if I need to remind you, security is the only way you protect your wealth and your gains. Operational security, by the way. We called it just security back then, but operational security, as you as an operator in this space, is still now the biggest thing. And it will continue to be the biggest thing. And yes, even now, I still get people, guys, who say, I wish I would have listened to you. And it breaks my heart when I see that, because I certainly don't want to be in the business of telling people I told you so, right? If your security is not set, you won't be set. So again, just make sure that your operational security is great. We have a great, our total value lock site's a great way to get started with that. Again, get a crypto-only email. You don't want to be mixing any of your personal details. I mean, you obviously at some point you will, because you have to KYC yourself. But using a throwaway Gmail, Yahoo, or Outlook, or using Proton Mail, which is what I use as well. You can also use stuff like Tutanota. There are other privacy emails that are out there. But you need to have an email that you can access that is not tied to anything that you do personally. So anything that's for your car payment, your banking, even stuff like how you pay your streaming bill, stuff like that. You don't want any of that touching anything you do with investing at all, for your safety. Whether you're doing digital assets, perps, crypto, equities, or options. You want to make sure that's all separated, because the moment you intermix that, that's where you run into problems. And security is meant to be a pain in the butt. That's why it's security. If it's easy for you to get in, think about someone who exploits you, how easy it is for them to get in. You want to be in a situation where you make it difficult for bad actors to do their job, because they're not doing it by themselves. They always have a bot that takes care of that, a script. And if you can figure out a way to get the script to get messed up, they'll, for the most part, leave you alone, because they're going after low-hanging fruit, right? People who don't care about security. And again, we've been talking about this for years. This has not changed. in years. Using a VPN or some type of encrypted tunnel is a given. Using a secure environment, having good passwords on your Wi-Fi, having good passwords on your physical network, having physical network security, using a hardware wallet, using Brave browser, or if you have to use Chrome because you just can't, or other browsers that have it, use a separate profile. Pardon me. Allergies. But yes, places like Firefox, which, I mean, for a long time we used Firefox, but I don't know what happened. Just doesn't work as well. Brave, I've tested at practically every browser because I'm ridiculous. I have 5 browsers with 50 tabs open. And I sit here and I talk about, why is my memory being such a hog? Yes, I know. But with regards to memory performance, at least on the Mac platform, which is what I mainly use, I also have Linux that I use as well, and I have Windows. Chrome is by far the biggest memory hog by itself. So using Brave browser, which is well optimized and preserves your privacy, great browser for that. If you have to use Firefox, you can use, Firefox is great, or there's some other browsers, like I think Zen browser is one that's great. That's based off of that. Orion is another on Mac OS. There's some flavors out there. You want to make sure that it's private and your stuff isn't being leaked out. That's the biggest point. Using a password manager, of course, is better because you only have to remember one password, which is your master password, which please needs to be more than 31 characters. That is so because the LastPass thing was terrible. LastPass exploit was terrible. If you happen to use their best practices, which I think is 31 characters or more on your master password, then you're in a situation where it's going to take them hundreds to thousands of years to crack your stuff. Obviously, with quantum computers, which most people don't have access to, we can make that fairly trivial, but using a password manager, again, puts that extra buffer out there and makes it harder for bad actors to want to hack you. And that's all the thing you're really trying to do. Okay? Using strong passwords just makes it difficult overall. And that's the whole key. If it's a pain in the butt for them to try and break into you because you have biometrics based off of your password manager using passwordless stuff, passkeys, stuff like that that's tied to biometrics, that's the best way to do it. Rabby is a great example of an extension that's moved forward to allow biometric unlock of your wallet. And yes, we recommend Rabby just because it's just great. Great for new users. Now, there are multiple wallets out there. Shout out to Ambire, shout out to Rainbow, shout out to I'll even say OKX, right? There's other wallets that are out there that are doing a better job of trying to make that experience so much easier, right? But Rabby still has everything you really need, right? They have Bridge, they have Swap, they have Perps. Do you pay for it? Yes, but it's there. They have the gas account, which still other people need to do. They have the ability to make sure that you don't have to they have the ability to make sure that you can specify how much you want approval on your token, meaning it's not always unlimited. I'm looking at you, Coinbase Wallet. That's a non-starter. If you don't allow me to change how much I'm approving, if it's nothing but unlimited every time, no, never, ever again. Now, in a world of new wallets that don't use seed phrases, again, this is from December of 2023. We're still using seed phrase wallets. Now, that's changing, right? Because you have Privy, you have Dynamic, you have all these others that are using social logins. So then that's where the stuff like the throwaway Gmail becomes helpful, right? Because then you have a strong password, hopefully, on that throwaway email through a password manager, and you're in a situation where it's not tied into your other personal stuff, and it makes it almost like an easy way to get a separate wallet, because off of every private key that gets generated from that service, you can get thousands of wallet addresses off of that, just like you can with seed phrases. So, and then the other reason why Rabby is still unbeaten is because they have batch approval revocals within the wallet native. You can use revoke.cash, of course, but having it in the wallet, and it works really well cross-chain in the background, it's just goated. It is built on top of the code from MetaMask as well. So, and really that was it for that. But still, the point of me recapping this is that the barriers of what you need to make sure that you do is just to maintain good security. That's how you keep yourself safe as an operator in this space, having good OPSEC. Now, oh, the other part about this. They've had access to this for 2 months. So other things I would say as part of the OPSEC is if you have what we call a hot wallet, meaning it was created from calling out to a server using like a social login, right? Not an air gapped like how you would set up your hardware wallet. Then you really should be in the practice of rotating wallets regularly. Or just sending funds to it, top them off, and don't store large amounts in there because it's easier on a hot wallet, as we call it, to get exploited, to click a bad link. You may already go to a thing and it's already popped in. The reason why we like hardware wallets is because they require you to have a second factor of that, right? So we're talking about having buttons to push on the device, or biometrics in some cases. Some of them have fingerprint readers now, especially if you use like a Solana Seeker, which is an Android phone that's a very nice, not just a paperweight, but also a hardware wallet. A very pretty one, if I may add. A couple others that are available too. The PSG1 from Play Solana. Got one of these bad boys. Looks just like a Game Boy Advance, but it also has a fingerprint reader on the back. This is the Giga version, the Giga Chat version, because, you know, reasons. Yeah, but this, I wanted the Pengu version, but they wouldn't allow me to trade. Regardless, it's got biometrics on the back for the hardware wallet. That's what you want. You want to make it difficult for people to steal your money. That's the best way to not lose money, is to not get stolen. That's the key. So, I say often that Bitcoin, Bitcoin, sure. DeFi, digital assets, fix whatever this crap is that's happening on January 1st. The other thing I would recommend, again, is going back through some of our older episodes, looking at crypto cards. That's the best way to on-ramp and off-ramp, because you can, well, off-ramp at least. On-ramp is still difficult. Now, if you want to do the LLC and, you know, have an entity that's in a different state, that works just as well. Then you can send money to that bank account and then on-ramp from there, not being in Illinois, and you won't have to worry about that issue. Again, not financial advice. You do the research, figure out what works best in your situation. I'm again very curious to see how this works with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, because, I mean, CME is such a huge part of the way that Wall Street deals with alternative non-stock assets, commodities, things like that. So the fact that, you know, they've had Ethereum futures there for a while, and now they have, you know, the ability to get into ETFs and all of the stuff there. This is a very big part of not being a good thing for them. If anything, I would think that the CME would file a lawsuit on this and see if they can get some sort of stay, some sort of rejection of this part of the bill that's been signed into law, some type of injunction. Because I'm pretty sure that Crypto.com, Kraken, and Coinbase don't want to have to go through the extra hoops of literally just going through it and withholding this stuff from Illinois citizens, because they live in a state with a government that frankly just fumbled. This is a bad way to go about it. Yes, stable coins are the future. DeFi is the future of the way we're doing business and how we're going to see the future of finance. Putting a blanket 0.2% tax on every transaction in a wallet based on a centralized platform that has Illinois KYC info, that's not the way to really go. Because again, it's always about, we're happy to make things legal for our citizens, we just have to figure out how are we going to tax it. And not that I partake, but I do know that Illinois is expensive for medical marijuana or even recreational marijuana. It's much more expensive than going to some other states nearby that also support that. So, but again, my worry on this, because the U.S. is such a haven of precedent. Let's say a lawsuit gets put in, and a judge actually rules in favor of Illinois. This could now be precedent to make it much worse. And there will be other states who will look at this and go, oh, well, they're going to tax all of that? We should tax all of that too. Because money, right? So yeah, I do think we're going to see more of this moving forward. I don't know if it'll be specifically 0.2% tax, but ultimately, if you're someone who believes in self-custody, this only affects you when you're trying to on-ramp funds. So trying to figure out how to get around that will be the part that's a little bit different. Excuse me. Again, if you're on a CEX, I would recommend that you don't use it like a bank. If you use a CEX to trade, I would recommend you look at other places to do it, like Hyperliquid or other types of spot and perpetual DEXs that are available on blockchains. Shout out to BuyReal specifically from Bybit on Solana. Really good place to do liquidity plays, as well as other types of plays that are available on X stocks and some of these other tokenized ways to get exposure. Right? So, I mean, this is only for crypto. This isn't for stocks, bonds, equities, any of that stuff. It's just for crypto transactions. We could see a lawsuit based on what that even means. What's the definition of a crypto asset? But they've already said it's a digital asset tax. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see how badly this could affect the economy, I guess, of Illinois. Because there are a lot of people already up in arms about this, regardless of how they go. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Hit me up in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow, subscribe. Whatever you want to do. Give me your thoughts on, if you're in the state of Illinois, does this outrage you? It should, because this is not a piece of legislation that puts the citizens' interests at heart. It puts the interests of the Illinois State Treasury at heart. Now, should you pay your taxes? Yes, of course. But this isn't one that you should be paying, in my opinion. Not in a world where you're trying to self-custody and try to become your own bank because banks have failed you. Simple as that. Because this tax doesn't help smaller regional banks that get run on because people decide that they want to be their own bank and not let the bank make 6% off of them. This doesn't help them. Again, shout out to everyone in the arena for watching along. Try to see if there's anything else I want to talk about today specifically. Unfortunately, Coinbase put out a whole bunch of announcements. After something like this, that all kind of sucks. It's just like, I don't know if I want to do that. Why would I want to go to Coinbase if I live in the state of Illinois? Because starting January 1st, that's all going to be bad. I mean, I guess at this point, they've dropped the warning, so January 1st, so that gives you less than 6 months to figure out something different, which I think a lot of people are going to do. Now, if we talk about markets, we're in a situation where markets are not looking fantastic. There's reasons for this, right? So the reason number one is we had a rise because of a supposed peace deal between the U.S. and Iran, which apparently has been signed digitally since last Sunday with regards to the MOU, or the Memorandum of Understanding. But there have been multiple actions, both by Israel as well as Iran, due to Israel continuing to bomb southern Lebanon, which of course they're going to sit there and say, well, we're not part of that MOU between the U.S. and Iran. And I'd say you're right, they're not. However, regardless of your political affiliation, I can tell you one thing that this conflict has done. And shout out to Tucker Carlson for this. So, BRICS used to mean Brazil, Russia, India, China, and Saudi Arabia, right? Or is it South Africa? I guess it's Saudi Arabia. Let's find out. South Africa. My bad. Now, the quote-unquote Global South has kind of put an interesting dent in all this, right? Because now BRICS equals all this. Well, the biggest I is now Iran, right? Regardless of how you feel about how this whole thing is done, Iran is now a power player in the world. You don't have to talk about, we don't have to talk about their quote-unquote decimated military, their lack of religious leader, because they still have all that, guys. Regardless, they can just appoint another one, regardless of if his son who's apparently more of a hardliner than the original Khamenei. Iran now has leverage. They have bargaining power, which is why they haven't done anything outside of what they've done, right? As I've mentioned on multiple streams, what's going to have to happen to get this to where it's going to be at is either a supreme act of humility or a supreme act of force. Now, apparently the president is on record, not on record, but he Sure, he's on record. He said that he did this to prevent a global depression by the end of the year. I think that's happening no matter what, not financial advice. Because the strait now being closed, as long as it has, again, after Vice President Vance canceled his trip to Switzerland, same with the Iranian delegation. So, no idea what's going to happen here. But overall, my call, saying from the beginning of the year that Bitcoin was just going to, that everything's just going to stay fairly sideways, has continued to stay true. This is once we find a little bit of room to run, something happens to again send it back down. And I think we'll continue to see more of this, right? We were here, then we're here, and I think we just stay in this. We just stay here, right? I think we just stay in this range, sideways, for a while, which is fine. You know, for us in our group and our content, we are big fans of fixed rate farming, yield, concentrated liquidity, stuff that profits off the behavior of other investors, which you should be doing instead of doing PvP type things. Do we get sent further? It's hard for me to say, but I don't think the quantum issue is as much of a problem anymore as the geopolitical tensions, right? I do think a lot of money came out last week in with the readiness for the SpaceX IPO. But now that that's running, and the fact that Anthropic is going to have problems getting their IPO off the ground because the government has issued them a directive that they cannot allow anyone who is not a U.S. national to work on the platform or to even use the new Fable model. You have to KYC for it, which is, well, it is what it is. This maybe brings more light to something like either Venice or BitTensor, which in my opinion is in prime scoopa-doopa range. Because this is decentralized AI. This is a super mesh network of AI-powered digital commodities that aren't owned by Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, or any of the other big players that are out there. I'm hoping we see some innovation from the subnet operators, all 128 of them, to bring more of what they're creating to the front, into the spotlight, right? Anyway, again, the whole point of today was to just kind of talk about what's happening in Illinois, how that'll affect you if you live there, what are your options, and then kind of painting the picture about where we're at, because we're still in the game of multiple groups moving from traditional finance rails down to DeFi, right? Because what is it now? The CME? I think the CME for sure are now running 24/7 with a one Sunday a month hour-long maintenance window. Also, I'm sure people are like, well, isn't that the way that the stock markets should run? Yeah, you would think. And they will at some point soon. They're moving to this 24/5 model where there will no longer be a wait for settlement. It'll be cross-border, it'll be anti-fragile. I'm not going to say censorship resistant because that definitely won't be the case. But being in a world where you don't have to wait 2 to 3 days anymore for settlement, it's going to be huge. So, more of this pain's going to happen, guys. More industries are going to get hit by these LLM trained or backed actors with regards to finding anything and everything that can be exploited. This really just highlights the fact that in Web 2 and Web 3 there are a lot of pieces of infrastructure and architecture that are easy to exploit because they didn't have proper operational security to keep that from happening. Having stuff like Novo 123 as a critical systems password is an embarrassment in the world of cybersecurity. You just don't do that. It's just crazy. The problem is there are humans behind systems like this in multiple industries around the world. And most of them are not going to pay these ransoms. And with the ransomware, getting things held hostage. Novo Nordisk is now in the process of having all of their AI models and the recipes for Ozempic and the way to produce it potentially leaked because they didn't want to pay $25 million. For me to use Ozempic, guys, is $1,000 a month. You can't tell me they don't have $25 million. You can't tell me they don't have $2.5 billion. Granted, this sucks, but they should have paid it. And I know they're like, you don't negotiate with terrorists, blah, 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 blah. Now they're going to have everything put out there, guys. Soon the whole world will become gaunt with Ozempic face. I don't know, guys. All I know is that this is not the only place this is going to happen. We're going to see more breaches, more industries getting hit. Imagine the NFL gets hit because they just didn't have good cybersecurity, or Major League Baseball, and suddenly they have a whole database of people who have ever bought tickets. And then they know your address, they know your credit card information, all that stuff. Not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just telling you, more of these exploits are going to happen. We're going to see more pain globally. It's a shame. Guys, we do this show every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. And as you know, based on the slideshow, we've done it since before December. Since January 2022 is when we started the original Beat the Banks. If you are interested in learning more about how to become a DeFi native and have good operational security, I would please implore you to check out our free site here at school.com/beacon. Join the many who have come out here, joined up. You get access to our free content here. Just check out our Start Here post. It tells you more about it. And it's right here on the bottom part of the screen. You can just scroll there and just get into it. Introduce yourself to our group. That'd be fantastic. And then from there, check out all of our free content. If you want more of a white glove service, or you just want one-on-one mentorship from me, all that's part of our all paid offerings that are available. Again, I want to shout out to our Beacon Mastermind founding members, our Beacon Mastermind current members, as well as our Beacon Mastermind, Beacon Spotlight subscribers and our Challenge subscribers as well. You guys help make Do What We Do possible. We greatly appreciate you. And we do this show every Friday. We also have our other podcast, Total Value Locked, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we educate you on the current news that's going on in the space with a great panel to give you great analysis and thoughts on how to interpret things. It's interesting, regardless of, and this is still valid today. We preached this 3 years ago, more than 3 years ago, guys. Strangely, it hasn't changed. You would think that more things would have happened, but just doing this is enough to give you becoming your own bank the best shot at good security, good operational security. But there's many other things as well. But overall, this is easy. This is not easy. This is the most probably the most straightforward way, just to make sure just that you do just enough to make sure that most of these terrible lack of humanity entities and beings on this planet won't grab you and try and steal your money. With that said, please be very careful about the mail you receive, not only in your email inbox, but apparently also in your snail mail mailbox, in your regular mailbox. Because there have been people who have, and we've talked about it on the show, sent out actual fake letters from Ledger, from Trezor, with a QR code that you scan. And yes, it's so convenient to do it, but understand what you're doing. And working with our content, you will understand quite a bit more, because bad actors prey on two types of people: the undereducated and those who are undereducated and unprepared. And if you are a follower of my content, you will never be either, because that's the one thing that we preach above everything, guys. Regardless of what these markets look like, right? All of this stuff that's here doesn't matter if you don't have this, because you'll get eaten alive. You'll click a bad link. You'll talk to somebody in a Telegram or a Discord who's promising to help you or just do whatever for you, and you'll get yoinked. And that's the one thing I don't want. Or you'll sign up for a terrible CEX in a foreign country that will never give you your money back. We can do better, guys. We can. And a lot of the things we teach our community are based off of first principles and best practices to make sure you stay safe. Because the one thing that I want for all of you in this space, as you build the foundations for the generational transfer of wealth that's ahead of you, is a strong foundation and a strong routine and a strong mindset to help give you longevity in this space. Because that's the one thing that everyone wants here. There are a lot of people who have already left crypto and digital assets and DeFi. That's fine. That's their choice. One thing we also say is confusion equals money. People who are confused, that won't see past the noise, won't make the money. We do. We've been here for years. We're staying safe, and we're doing the right things. We're not chasing after terrible meme coins or anything like that. We're using tried and true first principles to make sure that we are staying safe and we are profiting off the behavior of other investors, because that's the best way to make money in this space overall. Otherwise, you can just utilize structures and all that and be a great guesser of where charts are going. Shout out to you guys. Let me lower that banner. Get my big old noggin back on here. I do want to say again, happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are out there. It's going to be a great day. And yeah. Take care. Like, follow, subscribe. Of course, let me know your thoughts on this Illinois thing. You have till the end of the year to figure out a plan. If you have any thoughts or just want to get my opinion on your thoughts, feel free to reach out. Happy to talk to you. That said, 07, beacons up, banks down. Keep beating those banks. Self-custody, becoming your own bank. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Take care.